This has been a presentation of HB.
Several major sanctioning bodies conducted races last weekend, and we're here to review them for you. Hi, everyone. Welcome to Speedweek. I'm Larry Newber.
And I'm Bob Jenkins. Last Sunday's Winston Cup race, televised here on ESPN, was in Bristol, Tennessee, and that's where we begin our recap.
Bob, one of the series' most intellectually demanding tracks became one of the most emotional. Crashing and incidents became more of an issue than who led or won the race.
I guess the tactics now are you can't pass, you just knock the guy out. I don't know who it was that hit me, but I'm sure he should know better than do that. That's an Earnhardt move, and there's only one Earnhardt out here. We don't need any more, but I'll tell you, I've been a nice guy for a long while, and I love this sport. I love our sponsors, Levi Garrett, Exxon, and AC Spark Plug, but I guess Jeff Bodine's going to have to get tough, start knocking some guys around if that's how they want to play. You see it in basketball a lot underneath the boards, you know. A guy will start knocking the other guy, and pretty soon you end up in a war out there. I think it's a war out here right now.
Jeff responding to this lap 437 incident when Richard Petty banged by him and Jeff dropped down into Ken Schrader's path, who had twice come from 2 laps behind. His emotion was so strained that Jeff spent 5 minutes helmeted, picking up debris from the track, staying away from everybody until he collected more controlled thoughts. By now, you've heard the punchline of today's story. Dale Earnhardt won again. Officially now the finest start in the history of NASCAR, winning 5 of the first 7 races and on all shapes of tracks. By race's end, there may have been 2 or 3 cars that did not have a fender destroyed or missing, but grill work became as endangered as the American Eagle. Jeff was involved in the race's first significant caution when he and Bobby Allison, also displeased, came together. While bumpers and fenders too became extinct, today was overpopulated with yellows, 13, and lead changes. Dave Marcus running one of his year's finest when both he and a trailing Benny Parsons hit apparently the same debris. Darrell Waltrip found out how he has avoided this kind of thing in the past when he used to run up front. Sterling Marlin survived this. Brother Phil Parsons on the lead lap kept the inside wall company, and Eddie Bierschwal gave the Arrington Potter crew some extra work this week, but then again, who didn't? Kyle Petty and Morgan Shepherd, both looking like candidates for a win, shared this very late race moment that looked as much like emotion as error. Jeff, running top 3, did have an ill-handling Tiger by the tail in the latter stages. The spin preceded that crash. Harry Gannett sat on the pole, Travis Carter and crew calling Herb Knapp temporarily up from retirement to try just anything. He was one of 11 race leaders that also included Rusty Wallace, Marcus Bodine, Bill Elliott 3 times for 150 laps, Richard and Kyle, Shepard, and Alan Kowicki. And this may have been the most significant other leader in incident. Midway through the race found Sterling Marlin out front and Earnhardt pressing pretty good to get by. Bristol is a narrow hallway to race through, but metal clashed during another Dale pass for the lead. This does look like a racing incident. Jeff and Kenny tag here also, but the frequency of this in Dale's recent career brought a verbal warning from NASCAR and ended Sterling's best chance for his first career win. Even the weather got its licks in. Warning all day, it finally opened up right after this and caused a 1.5-hour delay. And this was followed by 20 more minutes under controlled yellow before resuming real racing. Kyle Petty led, then Elliott, then Shepard before his crash, but it was only a matter of time before Dale glided almost effortlessly to his 3rd consecutive win. Richard an aggressive 2nd, Rudd a consistent 3rd, with the Fords of Elliott and Kowicki 4th and 5th. Well, despite Earnhardt's 5 wins in 7 races, Bill Elliott has still won the most money, and Bill is only 127 points behind Dale in the Winston Cup standings.
And for a while Saturday in the Grand National race at Bristol, it looked like Earnhardt's good fortune would continue. He was on the pole in his V6 Chevy with Mark Martin's V8 Thunderbird on Hoosier tires alongside. It was all Earnhardt at the start, but the good battle was between number 00 Brett Bodine, Martin, and number 90 Rusty Wallace. Back further in the pack, Rob Moroso and Brad Teague battle. Out of turn 2, they collide. Moroso nearly head-on into the wall, climbing into the air, then back into the wall and sliding across the track. Morgan Shepherd and Jack Ingram sneak through, but Max Prestwood, who was running 17th, slams into Moroso's car. Both drivers escaped injury. The next yellow was for Patty Moise's slide down the main stretch after being tapped in the rear. Donnie Allison and Elvin Sawyer got together in turn 1. Teague survives again, but has to slide to the infield. Bobby Dragon lost a wheel, and several drivers skillfully avoided it, but not Harry Gant. Boom! Harry's race is over. Yellow at the halfway mark saw the leaders pit, leaving Martin in the lead with Shepherd second. But then Morgan, a three-time winner of this race, who started 11th, began dominance in the second half. Earnhardt slowed with brake problems. Rusty dropped out with handling problems. Another yellow for Tommy Houston's backstretch spin set up a 5-car battle for the win. Shepherd kept the lead, but Larry Pearson in second began to drop back, leaving Ingram and Dale Jarrett to contest second. Bodine was a lap down due to a green flag pit stop for a tire change. Shepherd led 97 of the 200 circuits and averaged almost 74 miles an hour. The margin of victory, 1/2 second over Ingram, Jarrett, Earnhardt, and Pearson.
Another division of NASCAR, its All-American Challenge Series, ran near Atlanta Saturday night. Chevys, driven by Darrell Brown, Dave Mater III, and Ronnie Sanders, swept the first 3 spots.
While NASCAR officials have to approve stickers on cars and even diagram their placement, not so in ASA. Butch Miller receives an ESPN sticker in the Buckeye 250 near Cincinnati Sunday. Sure, a lot of new good-looking equipment. Here's Bobby Dotter's new Miller-sponsored T-Bird. Bob Seneker, who drove a Ford last year, is going with a Buick this year. And Mike Eddy has the same color and number, but he, too, is going with a Buick. Amongst all the new combos, Dick Trickle, who didn't win an ASA race last year, is going with the Camaro again, with the same basic look. He calls this car Crystal. Miller is introduced to the crowd as the nation's best short-track late model driver. Trickle has thoughts of taking that title away from Butch, and today would be a perfect time to start. Tom Jones, who led points last year for a while, has been very competitive the last several years. Trickle started on the pole, but he, along with Seneker and several others, would experience trouble on this half-mile oval. Number 78, Ed Cooper, brought out an early yellow with a perfectly executed 360 on the backstretch. Dennis Vogel had the most serious-looking crash of the day after an encounter with Michael Kurkowski. But after a long slide to turn number 1, Vogel finally got out of the car and received no injuries. Trickle's chance of victory ended with an accident with Tom Harrington in turn 2. Seneker is the blue car that gets tapped from behind while trying to avoid a spin in the 4th turn that involved Brett Miles and Ray Fullen. With those guys gone, it was an easy win for Miller. He won an all-pro race just last weekend. Probably has nothing to do with it, but maybe the ESPN sticker at least helped.
Speedweek is brought to you by B.F. Goodrich TA Radios. We make your car perform. By Quaker State Motor Oil. New Quaker State with QSX keeps your engine cleaner to last longer. And by Dodge, setting new standards of performance.
In a moment, the shedding of a monkey and a long-awaited win.
And a series still fluttering to get off the ground.
We test tires in this lab, but we don't really know how a TA radio will perform until we get it here. I believe TA radios are the best performance tires in the world, and I drive them into the ground to keep them that way.
TA radios from BF Goodrich, tested tough to make your car perform.
Heaven on earth.
Don't get him started about his car.
Hey, Pete, toss me the Quaker State. This new Quaker State with QSX is a miracle. It gives car-carrying people superior engine protection. Look at the sludge conventional motor oils leave behind. New Quaker State with QSX keeps your engine cleaner to last longer. And that means I might spend the rest of my life in heaven.
Warned you.
So Quaker State heroes, reaching for the best.
Something stirring, and there's no denying its energy. Its arrival. This phenomenon goes by the name of Daytona. The brand new front-wheel drive Dodge Daytona. Be prepared for even more excitement per mile. Dodge Daytona. Dodge, setting new standards of performance.
Just like last year when Kevin Kogan won his first IndyCar race, there was a first-time winner this year at Phoenix. And there were other similarities between this year and last. Just like last year, the Andretti's, Mario and Michael, were on the front row. And father, driving his Lola Chevy Ilmore, had son in tow for the early stages of this 200-lapper. Only 3 yellows, and one of them was for debris. Gary Bettenhausen's turn 2 spin was the field slowdown for the first time. It was at this time that Tom Sneva pitted with fouled spark plugs. Roberto Guerrero, sporting the old STP red and with Andy's son Vince Granatelli, team owner, started last because his car was 2.5 pounds underweight in the post-qualifying inspection. But Roberto was moving up quickly. He was up to 3rd in just 50 laps. Jeff McPherson, a Rookie of the Year contender who crashed here last year in practice, spun for caution period 2. Kevin Cogan, who ran 3rd for a while, fell victim to electrical problems. And Rick Mears' bad luck continued as his Penske Ilmore gave up at the mid-race point. On a debris caution, the up front runners pitted. Guerrero ran over a tire, and that's a no-no. The penalty, a stop and go. But even that couldn't keep Guerrero out of victory lane. Ari Leyendijk had his best IndyCar finish ever, a 3rd, although 1 lap down. The Andretti's followed. Roberto's first ever IndyCar win over Rahal was especially rewarding considering his misfortune at Miami last year when he ran out of fuel leading. And this win only the 4th in history from last to 1st.
It was tough. I mean, everybody said you can still do it and whatever. It is difficult to make yourself really believe it, you know, when you have to go through all the traffic. But when we started the race and when we got that first yellow and we packed up and we were 8th or 9th already, then I came on the radio and said, I think we have a chance at this thing after all. So it worked out just great.
Driver Mike Nish suffered a broken leg and his wife sustained hip injuries in a highway accident Tuesday night while driving from Phoenix to their home in Salt Lake City. Indianapolis entries this year total 76 cars and 39 drivers. There's only one 85 chassis entered. It's owned by California car dealer Elmer Fields, and it will be driven by Dick Ferguson. Former driver Norm Hall will be crew chief.
The opening round of CART's official support series didn't have much support from its own competitors. The ARS field at Phoenix was small, but there was one ringer, 2-time Indy 500 winner Gordon Johncock. He agreed to a one-time drive in the oval to observe the younger guys from this unique position, officially, though, for no points or prize money. When the race started, if you missed the first lap, you might have well have missed the whole thing. Pole setter Didier Tays had his rev limiter kick in at just the wrong moment. Jeff Andretti swung by on the outside and took the lead. And that was the story of the win. For 75 laps, Didier tried to get by. For 75, Jeff was perfect. Andretti never made a mistake, and Tays decided to not push things too far. As for Johncock, his ARS debut fizzled when his car fizzled. He hadn't been a threat, but was he supposed to be anyway? If you throw Gordon out, there were only 10 entries for this opener, which brings up the question raised at this race last year: will ARS survive? Well, they have time to interest more entrants. The ARS series takes a month and a half off until its next race, May 31st in Milwaukee. In Victory Lane, winner Andretti said, I think and hope for more entries there. Steve Millen, injured in an IMSA race earlier this year at Miami, returned to competition in that ARS event, and he finished 6th.
And while the field was short for ARS, there was no shortage of cars for another support event. The second Super Bee race of the year was also at Phoenix. Now, the runner-up in points last year in Super Bees was Mike Groff. His brother Robert started second and beat pole sitter Ken Johnson to the first turn. Pat Finney was the only one who couldn't continue in a 3-car crash on lap 4. Johnson began his comeback by passing Groff for the lead. Late in the race, he was challenged by David Coudray, but Johnson, a former Super Bee champion, won the race. Last year, he had the win taken from him when SCCA officials let the race go too long. On the last lap, Jim Ward smacked the front stretch wall after contacting John Escuri.
And when we return with Jimmy Clark and Nicky Lauda behind him, now only Jackie Stewart looms.
And with the problems of others behind, the Dyson team leaves everybody behind them. Stay with us.
To do it.
Let's crank this puppy up and see what she'll do.
Yipes! Watch out for those calendar pages.
Creative Homeowner Press, home improvement and remodeling books, $4.97 each. Genie 6-gallon jetpack with accessories, $42.97 after rebate.
Jeepers, where are we?
Looks like Cleveland, but with our luck, our luggage is probably somewhere in 1962.
National number.
WrestleMania 3, the biggest happening of the year, gets set for 12 great matches, highlighted by Andre the Giant challenging Hulk Hogan for his heavyweight title for the first time ever.
When Hulk Hogan faces the biggest challenge of his life, 7'4", Andre the Giant, 550 pounds. What you gonna do, Andre, when Hulkamania runs wild on you?
WrestleMania 3. I wouldn't miss it even if I didn't have a seat in the front row.
I wouldn't miss it for all the gossip in Hollywood.
Big boys and their toys get down and dirty Sunday on ESPN. Trucks, tractors, and drag racing all-stars team up in a 2-hour Speed World special Sunday on ESPN.
Travel arrangements made through Eastern Airlines, the leader in service to all the Americas, serving 140 cities in 23 countries, plus one magic kingdom. Eastern, the one to the sun.
Last week during our Formula One preview show, I suggested this season would establish the mark for all future F1 drivers to shoot for. Well, it may happen quicker than anyone planned. All but one of the old 13 teams changed at least one driver. The only standing pat, Williams-Honda, dominated practice and qualifying. But not fastest in the Sunday morning warm-up, the first sign of chink in their armor. They changed brake bias right on grid, but Nigel Mansell immediately retreated to fifth. Nelson Piquet led, but the Williams devoured tires. Plus a premature stop once for paper in a radiator, the ultimate irony from an over-exuberant hometown crowd. Frequent pit stops at different rhythms created several leaders, Piquet, Mansell, Alain Prost, Ayrton Senna, and Terry Boutsen. Ah, Prost, the master strategist, McLaren, the master race setup team. They took command 1/3 in and kept it. Senna may have forced his crew into over-engineering. He speaks, they jump, this time changing fuel mixture also on their grid. The engine blew anyway. Prost's new teammate, Stefan Johansson, must be ecstatic, landing third behind Piquet. His Ferrari seat last year now holds Berger, who came fourth. Despite a pop-off valve fire on his grid, Boutsen, Berger's Benetton last year, fifth, and Mansell received the final point. Senna teammate Satoru Nakajima, fascinating first race, just one lap down in seventh. Prost, now just one win from Jackie Stewart's career total, 27.
At Road Atlanta Sunday, Porsche swept the IMSA GTP race when some major competitive makes dropped out. Here's Jim Roller.
Bryce Cobb and James Weaver teamed Sunday for a hard-fought victory in the Atlanta Journal-Constitution Grand Prix at Road Atlanta in Braselton, Georgia. Cobb and Weaver led a Porsche sweep of the top 5 finishers. Two teams had a chance to spoil the Porsche parade, but succumbed to mechanical trouble. First to drop out was the Corvette prototype of local favorite Doc Bundy and Sarl van der Merwe. They dominated early before overheating ended their day. The Nissan number 83, driven by North Carolina's Elliott Forbes Robinson and Florida's Hurley Haywood, also led briefly. Clutch trouble cut short their bid for victory, and that meant the race would be decided among Porsches. Warrington, Pennsylvania's Al Holbert and Chip Robinson of Old Wick, New Jersey, led for most of the race, while Cobb from Evergreen, Colorado, and British sensation Weaver struggled to come back from an early punctured tire. In the closing laps, after a yellow flag, Cobb mounted a final charge as Holbert's engine weakened. With less than 10 laps to go around the 2.5-mile North Georgia circuit, Cobb took the lead for good. Holbert and Robertson were able to hold on for second place. In the Camel Lights division, for smaller prototypes, Californians Don Bell and Jeff Klein survived an early race pit fire to claim a 3-lap victory. The Camel GT regulars will now go west to Riverside, California for a 500-kilometer race Sunday, April 26th.
A very full slate at Atlanta. 2 more IMSA divisions, both for sedan production models. The American Challenge cars have to be produced over here. A hotly contested struggle between Mr. Almost Unbeatable last year, Irv Hare, and Dick Danielson. That was Hare settling the issue down the final hill. For the international sedans, Doug Peterson earned the highest step on the winner's rostrum. There were 2 open-wheel divisions also supporting this card. The mighty Formula Atlantics, won by second-generation racer Michael Greenfield. He just turned 24 this week, and this was his first win in 2 years. Pole setter Steve Shelton was second, and another HFC championship contender, Calvin Fish, was third. In Barber Sobs for equally prepared cars, Ken Murillo, looking strong at the end of last year, is now 2 for 2 in this year's series.
Heaven on earth.
Don't get him started about his car.
Hey, Pete, toss me the Quaker State. This new Quaker State with QSX is a miracle. It gives car-carrying people superior engine protection. Look at the sludge conventional motor oils leave behind. New Quaker State with QSX keeps your engine cleaner to last longer. And that means I might spend the rest of my life in heaven.
Warned you.
Your Quaker State heroes, pitching for the best.
No matter how Dodge makes it look, winning ain't easy.
When the road is long and the going gets tough, less than your best is never enough. But the dream of winning lets you meet the test, because winners are dreamers who give it their best. And if winning was easy, why run the race? You'd be number one if you don't set the pace. At Dodge we know there's only one first place. If winning was easy, it wouldn't be a race.
At Dodge, we set the pace.
When you replace ordinary spark plugs with Bosch Platinum plugs, you may not notice the change immediately. The quicker starts, the smoother acceleration, the extra performance only pure Platinum delivers. So how long will it take you to notice the improvement Bosch Platinum plugs make? About that long.
Bosch Platinum spark plugs, available at Kmart and other fine auto parts stores.
Dodge rewrites the book on performance. The new 1987 Direct Connection catalog. Dodge builds them hot. DC Parts make them hotter. They build them stock. Direct Connection makes them trick. The 1987 Direct Connection catalog. Performance, chapter and verse. To order your copy, call toll-free 1-800-228-4665.
One of those historic annual NASCAR modified races, the Spring Sizzler, was held last weekend at Stafford, Connecticut Motor Speedway. All of the 30 starters hope to complete the entire 80 laps without a pit stop for tires. But Reggie Ruggiero got the wrong stagger combination at the start and had to make 2 stops. But once he got things hooked up, he was fast. First, he got by second-place Jimmy Spencer, who led the first 26 laps. Then he passed George Brunholzl for the lead with just 7 laps to go. Reggie became the first driver to win 2 NASCAR modified events this year, and he now has a 66-point lead over defending champion Jimmy Spencer. At Mesa Marin Speedway in California, Billy Vukovich III won his 4th straight USAC Super Modified race.
87's AMA Grand National Motorcycle Competition is resembling NASCAR's Winston Cup. The newer, younger faces are asserting themselves. No surprises, they have been competitive from the beginning, but now they are starting to win. AMA's second event of the season, Ascot's half mile last week. The obvious favorites were 19-year-old Chris Carr, 21-year-old Doug Chandler, and Bubba Schobert, twice defending champ. Schobert had weak prelims, though, and started on the last row. Chances not good on a half where the finals last less than 10 minutes. That's Carr leading first down E-step, one of his better efforts, hanging low. And the view that camera-mounted Ted Booty sees, 11 Scott Parker, 16 Ronnie Jones, who actually came from 12th start, and Chandler high. Pete Hames, an occasional sprint car racer, Steve Moorhead, went down, causing 1 local yellow in this 20-lapper, but no injury and no race delay. Schobert, that's he high, just didn't have it this day. Carr's factory Harley won the opener 2 weeks ago and looked headed for another until Chandler and his privateer Honda moved down and by, long gone.
Winston Cup officials are concerned about many things, including the shape of a car. More on that in this week's Bernstein File, brought to you by Quaker State.
NASCAR has many rules. Needless to say, the body configuration rules are the most important. They want the cars to resemble what they're supposed to be. Buicks, Chevrolets, Pontiacs, whatever. All the shops on the Winston Cup circuit have full body templates, as you see on top of the Quaker State Buick. They use these templates in the shop to make sure that when they come to the races, they are legal. It'd be very difficult once you attend the race and NASCAR tells you to make a change to do it at that time. It takes many weeks to build these cars and make the bodies fit the templates properly. So all shops have them so that when they show up, they're ready to do battle. I'm Kenny Bernstein.
Modern IndyCar history, the subject of this week's trivia. Who among the following has started last in an IndyCar race and won? A. Mike Mosley, B. Danny Ongaias, C. Tom Sneva, D. Hector Rabacke, or E. A.J. Foyt? Bob will have the answer in a moment.
We test tires in this lab, but we don't really know how a TA radio will perform until we get it here. Best performance tires in the world, and I drive them into the ground to keep them that way.
TA radios from BF Goodrich, tested tough to make your car perform.
CarQuest Auto Parts stores salute the professional mechanic. He does a job once, does it right. He makes a promise on service and repairs. He keeps it. He's a professional. He depends on other professionals like CarQuest. We know our parts as well as he knows how to repair cars. And CarQuest sells only the highest quality products, guaranteed by over 2,300 CarQuest stores coast to coast to fit right every time. CarQuest Auto Parts stores. The professionals prefer.
From cover story to back page, it's a special edition every Sunday morning when the Prudential presents This Week in Sports. Then, SportsCenter delivers the latest news every Sunday on ESPN.
Here's the answer to this week's trivia question. In the spring of 1974, the late Mike Mosley couldn't complete qualifying, started last, and won at Phoenix. Ongaias turned the trick at Michigan in 78. Also at PIR, Tom Sneva in 80 stopped during parade laps and therefore began last, but won. Among those listed, only one-time winner Rabacke and Foyt have never.
We've discussed the many forms of motor racing in the past, but this must be the ragged edge of that envelope, Rick DeBrule reports.
Really a pretty simple formula. It takes, say, about 3 parts dirt, 1 part water, mix it together real well. You've got great mud, the kind kids love to play with. But it's not just for kids.
I've always loved mud. It's been one of my favorite items.
That's what mud bogs and mud racing is all about, a chance for grown-ups to play in the mud.
Played it whenever you were a kid. Now you got machines that'll do it for you.
It's pretty simple, actually. Find yourself a dirt track, water it down until the mud is at least 4 feet deep, and then see how fast you can get to the other end. Some make it, some don't.
But usually when you bog down is when you didn't get off the line right and you get out in the mud and you're settling into the mud. You come off the line fast enough and you just jump right up on top of it and you're just making tracks about 1 inch or so deep. It doesn't take near as much horsepower when you're running on top of it as if your tires are sinking in 1 foot deep.
Of course, driving is only part of the challenge. Seeing where you're going is just as tough.
Well, actually, once it gets muddy, it's good because then you don't have to worry where you are because you can't see where you're going anyways.
And the fans love it.
So I'd like to see a little deeper, a little thicker, you know, the 3-4 foot sucking mud.
There is even a national championship this year. For the first time, we will know who is the slipperiest in the sludge. But for some, mud is more than just sport. It's a way of life.
It gets in your blood and you're hooked, man. What can you say?
Mud?
Mud in the blood.
In Phoenix, still trying to get out of the mud, I'm Rick DeBrule reporting for Speedweek.
Well, the racing schedule is relatively light this coming weekend because of Easter, but the USAC Sprints will be in action in Pennsylvania, and the World of Outlaws open the Memphis Motorsports Park. I'm Bob Jenkins.
And I'm Larry Newberry. We wish you a safe and pleasant Easter weekend, and we'll see you next week here on Speedweek.
Speedweek has been brought to you by BF Goodrich TA Radios. We make your car perform. And by Quaker State Motor Oil. New Quaker State with QSX keeps your engine cleaner to last longer.